Until recent years, fighter aircraft had good dynamic stability and therefore had very little trouble due to poor damping during aiming flight. As this earlier type aircraft runs in towards the target, the point of aim settles immediately and is held quite steadily. Only the pilot's corrections move the point of aim in relation to the target. The greatly improved aerodynamic cleanness of modern jet aircraft has led to poor dynamic stability. Aircraft take longer to settle down after a deflection in yaw, whether due to a control movement or to a gust. This was disturbing to a pilot trying to hold his gun sight on a target. This camera record from a Meteor clearly shows the difficulty. With higher closing speeds and the need for more accurate tracking with long-range weapons, this difficulty becomes really serious. Unfortunately, no normal changes in aircraft design can give the improvement required. It is therefore necessary to resort to artificial means, and an auto-stabilizer has been developed at the RAE. It is a low-powered servo mechanism which improves the directional damping by appropriate very small rudder movements. It can be fitted to Meteors with very little modification to the aircraft, and incorporation in subsequent aircraft types is in progress. The installation consists of 3 small units: the sensing element, which is a rate gyro, the control unit, and the servo motor. The combined weight of these units is approximately 10 pounds, with additions for wiring. Here is a typical arrangement in a Meteor. The gyro unit with a switch in the cockpit, the control unit, which can be located anywhere in the aircraft, and the servo motor, which operates the rudder tab. Without the auto-stabilizer, the motion after the aircraft is disturbed is poorly damped, and an oscillation continues for some time. The operation of the system can easily be seen on the ground by swinging the aircraft and observing the tab movement. In flight, the rudder movements involved are small, and movements of the rudder pedals are hardly noticeable. The system has only a transient response. It may be said to have a short memory. It therefore does not oppose the pilot's sustained efforts, although a slight pedal resistance may be detected in sharp maneuvers. Without the auto-stabilizer, a lateral oscillation persists for some time after a disturbance. If the disturbances are continuous, as in turbulent air, the oscillation will never completely die away. The effect can be seen in the corresponding view of the instrument panel. It will be noted that the aircraft motion is mainly in yaw. This is frequently termed snaking. With the auto-stabilizer switched in, the oscillation disappears almost immediately. Again, the effect can be seen on the instrument panel. This model shot shows the snaking of a typical straight-winged fighter without auto-stabilizer. The yaw is always accompanied by some roll. The aircraft has actually nearly equal deflections in roll and yaw, although the maxima occur at different instants. The effect of switching in the auto-stabilizer is to damp the whole oscillation, the relation between roll and yaw remaining the same. In modern swept-wing aircraft, the angle of yaw is much less than the angle of bank, and the motion might appear to the pilot as pure rolling or rocking. The actual ratio of roll to yaw is commonly called the Dutch roll ratio. It must be understood that the rolling, however dominant, results from the yawing motion, and therefore by increasing the damping in yaw, The auto-stabiliser also damps roll. And now for the way in which the aiming records are analysed. If during an aiming run our attacking aircraft is deflected, the fixed gun sight or camera graticule moves in relation to the target. What appears on the cine record, however, is the relative movement of the target against the graticule. Thus, during an aiming run, the cine record gives us a time history of angle of error. Now for some actual air-to-ground aiming runs. In combat records from World War II, the run up to the target is steady, and any disturbance is quickly damped. In rocket attacks, a steady run up to the target is particularly important in order to minimize side-slip error. Records have been made of runs at a ground target by a Meteor under various conditions of turbulence. They are in pairs, without and then with the auto-stabiliser in operation. To ensure similar air conditions, the second run of a pair was made immediately after the first. Without auto-stabiliser in severe turbulence, watch how the aim swings from side to side with little sign of damping. This uncontrollable aircraft motion in gusts causes a feeling of lack of tautness in control and greatly hinders tracking. The corresponding time history, the upper curve in the diagram, clearly shows the poorly damped swinging. With the auto-stabiliser switched on, in the same severe turbulence, the improvement in behavior is immediately apparent. Note that the motion after a disturbance is no longer oscillatory. The time history of this run, the lower curve, shows the improved characteristics. A comparison of the time histories shows that the auto-stabiliser reduces the amplitude of the deflections and quickly damps out any residual swinging. The feeling of closer control resulting from this entirely different type of motion is in itself a great advantage to the pilot. He is able to concentrate more on longitudinal control and on avoiding side slip, an important factor in rocket firing. To analyze a sample time history, the times on target within quarter degree error, the grey blocks, and within eighth degree error, the black blocks, are totaled. The percentage times on target are then calculated. In the severe turbulence case, the figures for quarter degree error were 20% without the auto-stabiliser and 60% with. For eighth degree error, they became 7% without auto-stabiliser and 37% with. Here is an example of an aiming run without the auto-stabiliser in moderate air turbulence. This level of turbulence is more likely to be encountered under normal conditions. The same poorly damped swinging as that noticeable in the severe turbulence case can again be seen. The pilot can do little to control this motion. The times on target for this run are 58% for quarter degree error and 34% for eighth degree error. With the auto-stabiliser in moderate turbulence, an improvement similar to that obtained in extreme air conditions can be seen. The reduction in maximum amplitudes of error is particularly noticeable in this example. The times on target for quarter-degree error are 80% with auto-stabilizer against the 58% obtained without. For eighth-degree error, these figures are 47% with auto-stabilizer and 34% without. The time histories show the change in the whole character of the motion when the auto-stabilizer is switched in. Another pair of runs in slight turbulence demonstrates that even in good conditions, an aircraft with poor dynamic stability is not a good aiming platform. Notice that slight snaking is still apparent in this run without auto-stabilizer. The times on target are 67% for quarter-degree error and 40% for eighth-degree error. In the next run with auto-stabilizer, see how the pilot picks up his target immediately without any signs of an overshoot. The graticule is then held on the target to within very close limits. For this run, the time on target for a quarter-degree error is 90% with auto-stabilizer, compared with 67% without. For eighth-degree error, the values are 62% with auto-stabilizer against the 40% obtained with the non-stabilized aircraft. Finally, the two time histories are compared. The preceding runs on a well-defined target do not emphasize the importance of a steady gun platform to a pilot who is attacking a pinpoint target surrounded by other objects. This run on airfield buildings shows how, with the auto-stabilizer, the pilot can single out one particular building and compress home the attack without being distracted by the aircraft oscillation. In air-to-air combat, the level of air turbulence is, in general, lower than that for air-to-ground, although wake from the target can have even greater effect. The increase in altitude also results in a reduction of the inherent stability of the fighter aircraft and causes further difficulties connected with high Mach numbers. In the following examples of attacks from astern upon a straight flying target, watch the importance of small errors at long range which would result in a complete miss for a long-range weapon. It is sometimes argued that the bullet dispersion produced by snaking could be an advantage at closer ranges. This argument, however, ignores the great wastage of firepower involved. With the auto-stabilizer during this run, the pilot naturally uses a steeper turn onto the target without fear of snaking. This is an advantage in avoiding the wake of the target aircraft, and therefore our two runs are not strictly comparable. However, this technique can only be used effectively if the snaking after control movements is well damped. Here the two time histories are compared. The ranges marked on these diagrams show the very different behavior of the attacking aircraft at corresponding ranges without and with the auto-stabilizer. Further attacks from astern are made with the sight adjusted so that the attacking aircraft is affected by the wake of the vampire target. Thus the attack is made in intermittent extreme turbulence. We see that without the auto-stabilizer there is hardly any rest period which would give the pilot a chance to use a weapon effectively. With the auto-stabilizer working, this run shows longer periods of steady sighting and, although being continually disturbed by the wake of the leading aircraft, considerably better times on target are obtained. 78% against 60% for quarter-degree error, and 52% against 33% for eighth-degree error. A look at the two time histories brings out these points. The error in camera harmonization which may have been noticed in the film is corrected for in these diagrams. The design trends that have made the auto-stabilizer necessary in the Meteor continue into the new generation of fighters. The auto-stabilizer will probably therefore be necessary in all these aircraft. Developments continue to increase the effectiveness and applicability of the system. It will in fact become a part of the flying characteristics of most of these future aircraft, and with this in mind, every effort is being made to maintain its simplicity, reliability, and ease of servicing. The present low power level of the instrument means that failure can never apply a dangerous degree of out of trim. This very desirable feature will be preserved as far as possible in future applications. These applications may include stabilization in pitch and improvement in roll response.